But the table that he shows the cops when they show up is missing a leg. It only has 3 legs. Murders, mysteries, unexplained stories, and our family's crazy opinions on them all. Join us now. The Family School of Thought is in session.
Okay, everybody, welcome again to this week's of the Family School of Thought. Appreciate everybody stopping in and taking a look. I'll just cover this now. Make sure you share, like, and
subscribe.
And contact us at thefamilyschoolofthought@gmail.com. All right? Good.
And find us on Instagram.
And on Instagram and
maybe not.
And wherever Cassie puts
I haven't
us.
updated our Instagram in a couple weeks because I forget until like Friday, and then I'm like, whatever.
Well, no, I don't remember what they're called.
We don't have a Twitter, so we don't fall under Elon Musk's control.
But what's the other thing?
TikTok.
Do we have anything else?
Are you going to make videos for TikTok?
No.
You have to make a video for TikTok.
No.
Well, they're dance videos. You have to learn the dance.
Mm-hmm.
We can each week we can make up a dance that goes to the theme of our podcast, and then we could post it.
No.
That'd be a treat.
The last episode, I just edited it. We were all talking about how confident in our bodies we are. So,
yeah.
How confident are you?
I'm not.
All right. Let's get started. Cass, the weather is what in Portland?
Oh, it was really cold today. It was kind of gray and just kind of like sweater weather. I sat around and read a book all day.
Oh, nice.
Well, good for you.
Nice.
Yeah.
Jesse, how about you? How's the weather there?
Cold and snowy. Roads were not very good tonight.
Oh.
I wondered if they were slippery today.
They were 4-wheel drive on.
Yeah, they were slick. I was worried that I was going to end up in the ditch on the way home.
You have 4-wheel drive, Jess?
Mm-mm.
Oh, I didn't. You have front wheel or 2-wheel?
No, I just have
This one wheel.
I have a hovercraft. I have 0 drive, 0 wheel.
Me neither.
All right.
Yep. So,
okay, enough with that. How about you got any fun topics?
I got mental floss amazing facts. So I got a giggle out of this first one. It's gonna be Thanksgiving next week, so here's a little turkey information for you.
Gobble gobble.
Gobble gobble. Turkeys can fly at a speed of up to 55 miles an hour.
What?
And on land, a running turkey.
Believe that.
I believe that.
A running turkey can reach up to 18 miles an hour. But if Matt is driving, he's going to hit them all.
I was just about to say that.
That's where I got to giggle out.
Because I was just going to say that I do believe that because I have been in 2 separate cars where people have hit turkeys that have just run out in the road. And it happened so quick that there was nothing we could do.
No.
At 55 miles an hour.
It was like all of a sudden they would just blurred in front of the car, and then it was like feathers and blood.
I was not in the vehicle with Matt and Cassie when it happened. Cassie, how old? You were like 10?
Probably 10.
10, 11 years old.
I was 10. That was when he was taking us home from went swimming at the pond at his parents' house. And Jesse had to go to work, so Matt had to drive us home. And he was so worried about the fact that he had to drop us off with turkey guts, just hanging out.
Blood everywhere.
And me and Connor in the backseat, oh no. I thought it was so funny. And then Gabby did it, the same thing. Gabby and I were driving home one day, and the turkey ran out. It was so quick. There was nothing we could do. And Gabby hit it, and it just there was just feathers, and this one went under her car. But
I've never
was the same thing.
I've never seen a turkey run out in the road. I mean, I've seen them walking across the road, or
They're
On
quick.
the
I know that for
road,
sure.
None of them
Yeah.
ever dodged in front of me.
Apparently, they're attracted to Cassie. The car's Cassie's in.
Maybe.
It's never happened to me by myself, so I don't know.
You're always
Okay.
in a vehicle.
I know. I'm always passenger.
So another bird information. Did you know that only 3% of bird species have penises? Did you know that?
No.
Didn't
Well,
know that.
I think I
Ostriches,
did.
okay, ostriches and ducks have penises, but eagles and penguins do not.
I did know that you
Interesting.
can't really tell what a sex a bird is, but just by looking at
Right.
it.
Right.
Well, you can because
Usually
of the
based on the
feathers.
colors. Yeah.
The feathers,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, the color. I mean, but yeah,
Yeah.
right. The colors is what tells you. Because I had some birds one time and I didn't really know. I never did know if they were male or female. But they both
Yeah.
were colorful, so I'm guessing they were
That's
male.
true. It's really common for people to think they have like a certain gender bird, and then like 10 years
Yeah.
down the line, they like take it to the vet and they're like, oh no, this is a female.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep. So there's some bird trivia for you.
interesting.
The last mental floss amazing fact that I have for you guys today is when you flip a coin, there's a slightly greater chance that it will end up on the side that it started. So if somebody says, hey, let's flip a coin, do you actually want to win? If it's heads up when it starts before the flip, it's likely going to be heads up when it lands.
Good to know because we all
I was
we
gonna
do
say-
the work flip coins of who's leaving early.
Oh, that's
Mhm.
good. I was gonna
Yeah,
say
make
this
sure-
information comes like 10 years too late. I could have used this when I played soccer all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. But it's only a
Every game
slightly
starts with a coin.
it's a slightly greater chance.
But most
so.
of the time they have a different kind of a coin to flip. Do they use
But
quarters?
still. I mean, it's like a certain
Yeah.
coin, but it
They
has
do
heads and
quarters
tails.
anymore?
I know, but
Yes.
it's probably the weight of a quarter that would make it land on the same dimension
don't
that it
know.
was started off.
Yeah.
Where if you had a plastic coin, chances of it
Well, it's
landing
not
on
plastic. It's like a metal. It's like a metal.
It's
like,
metal. It's just a
uh,
coin. Yeah.
it's like a
Oh.
big, like almost like a silver dollar,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
like a little
I'm gonna
medallion.
try that.
Okay. There you go. Those are my amazing facts.
Guess what
Weird.
we're going to do tomorrow? We're going to flip
Flip a
coins.
coin.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
we're
teach you how to
obsessed
flip
with
a coin.
We
Yeah.
flipping all day, keeping track. Okay. Now we know what our plans are for tomorrow.
Thanks, Jess.
You're welcome.
Okay.
We're going to flip a coin on
Let's get a
Thanksgiving
story
Day to
first.
see who's carving the turkey.
Hmm.
I can't wait.
Yes,
for
I do have.
Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday. I can't wait.
I
Good.
can't wait either. I got the turkey.
Let's get on with it now and tell us your story, Cass.
Song.
Song.
Oh, yeah. I'm
We're
sorry.
skipping a whole. We
Yeah,
got
just
so
song.
distracted. This one's and unfortunately we have to do this one because it's important. And Dad, you're not gonna like this one.
Oh,
Don't say it's with
This
one of my favorite songs already, I can tell you.
it might not be. I don't know. I know it's an artist you love, but I don't know if it's one of your favorite songs. But it is Little China Girl by David Bowie.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, I mean, as the title suggests, it's already a very creepy song because it's an ode to a little China girl, which in today's society, the song would have just never been made. But it was co-wrote by Iggy Pop. And it's actually,
I think I know that.
he and David wrote this together while they were in Berlin about a relationship that Iggy Pop did have with a Vietnamese woman. So it itself is already very creepy. But there's some lyrics that I don't catch every time, but when I do, I'm like, wait a
I
minute,
have
did
sung
they
this
just say
song
that?
a billion times.
Did
It
you?
was at one time my favorite song.
I'm going to read you a whole verse. This is a verse that is in the song, and I want you to know, I want you to tell me if you've actually sang this. I stumble into town just like a scared crow. Visions of swastikas in my head, plans for everyone in the whites of my eye. About a little China girl.
You know, I have sung those lyrics. I probably didn't process exactly what they meant
And again, I want you to remember that I just told you that they wrote this song in Berlin
in Berlin.
Yeah.
So
in 1989.
No, it'd been before 1989.
It says 1989.
No.
1983. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
1983.
Yeah, that's about right.
1983. They were singing
Yikes.
about a little China girl and how they're having visions of swastikas in their head, plans for everyone.
Well,
and why would they say that?
Why would they say that? That was every time I hear that lyric, I'm like, what was the message behind this song? Now,
Yeah.
there are some.
Yeah,
There
rule
are
for
some-
the song of the week.
What?
We're gonna have to have a new rule for the song of the week.
That
A
it can't be
song
something
that I
you like?
really love and have spent many times singing. You can't ruin it for me. I would have never put all that together, and I'd been singing that song the rest of my life.
Well, you'll still be singing the song for the rest of your life, but now you'll know.
Now you just have a little bit of
Now
guilt.
I know what I'm saying. It's not
Yeah,
good.
you really should
So now
listen to
you'll
the
feel
lyrics
bad
more
about it.
often because even after that, so after the swastika talk, right? We'll just because in some Buddhist religions, the swastika is a form of it's like a religious
It's a
symbol.
right. Yeah.
So like we'll look past that, right? We'll look past that.
And it's
Go a couple
probably
lines down
meaningless.
where it says, "I'll give you eyes of blue. I'll give you a man who wants to rule the world."
It
My
does,
little
yeah.
China girl.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
definitely have ruined that song for me.
I think it should have already been like this song just didn't age well.
How
Well, you
could
know,
they, even back in
I don't
83,
understand
could
how they can still play that song and then
That's
make all of the schools change. Like if it's Indian, they've taken all of that out. Like Chippewa, you can't say Chippewa.
Okay, back to the song.
Yeah.
I can't believe
Well,
David Bowie would
That's what
write
I'm-
that.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
He
Because
had a
he was
lot of really
really-
controversial songs to start with. In his early career, he was called like the Crazy White Man or something like that. The something white man. So he's already very controversial. I will say that there are articles about this song that said that they were just being racist to point out how racist people are. Doesn't really
Well, he
fly
was a
with
pretty
me.
conscientious person, David Bowie, and he was.
I believe he
There was
would.
a lot
I
of
think
controversy
he
about him, but it was about things really that would be nothing today. He was bisexual, and he
Well,
he
yeah.
was clear. Well, back in the 60s,
Yeah, oh yeah,
it
yeah,
was a
yeah.
big deal. And
Yeah.
so in that way, he was very edgy and controversial, but it wasn't a negative hate thing.
But I think he also
Well,
I think he kind of formed his I do love David Bowie, but I do believe he formed his career based off of controversies. Like I think he knew
Get
what
that.
he was doing. Um
But he wouldn't. I don't ever see him doing a hate thing.
Well, and that's another thing that I read is that so I think when this song was first written, one of the producers that I could see here said that he didn't even think about it being about an actual person. He thought it was
Wait a minute.
code for drugs because China White is a form of heroin. So I think a lot of people thought this was a song
never
about
thought about being
drugs.
Oh,
drugs
okay.
either,
Because
but-
I couldn't understand. I can't understand why they would continue to play this in today's world.
But I mean, look at all the songs that I've shown you throughout
Right,
like
right.
this
Yeah,
year. Like
right.
every
That's
single
right.
song, it's like this shouldn't have gotten through. Like, yeah, like they're all kind of like this. Where like I just think people get kind of swept away in the like music
In
of
the
it and the
lyrics
like,
of it.
and they
Iggy
don't
Pop
really pay
was
attention
not like
to
that at all. Neither. He's still not like that. He's very again. He was very groundbreaking what he did, but it was never negative or hateful or stuff like that.
Well, here's the thing is that we've kind of learned in the past couple of years that things that people didn't really understand were hateful or derogatory, like because they didn't mean it that way. Like it's starting to come forward. Like a lot of like this is the thing about comedians nowadays is like the big thing is like, oh, we can't say anything, can't joke about anything. It's like no, you just like these jokes that you've lived off of and profited off of for years are racist. We just never called you out on it before, or like it was always acceptable before.
I have no problem forgiving people for what they said in 1970, as long as they understand it's wrong now. You know what I mean?
Right.
But that's what I mean. That's what I mean. Like
Evolved,
there's,
you know.
you know,
But
our
that-
society
that
has evolved.
That's downright evil.
Well, what did you
No.
think the song was about before? Like, what did you really think the song was about before?
Think about it.
It just
It was a good
when you
song.
listen to it, you don't. I don't ever listen to the lyrics of a song. I just like the music or the beat, and maybe that's
Well, I will say, like, I've always kind of been like, this is a kind of weird song, like, kind of weird thing to talk about. But I never caught it until, like, probably maybe like a year ago. I was like, we, you know, have music going on in the kitchen, and I was just the song came on, and I was singing along to it, and the swastikas part came on, and I'm like, did he just say visions of swastikas? And like nobody else was. Everyone's like, oh, I don't know. I didn't like really pay attention. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you just.
Yeah, he did, but I never thought. I never questioned.
Like, yeah, like it never registered to me until.
I guess I never
then...
thought. When I've listened to that song a million times, I've never heard swastika in it.
I tell you what, I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to email Iggy Pop.
Don't laugh at me.
What he was thinking when he wrote that song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because now I want to know. Because neither one of them are, you know, racist or, you know, negative, hateful stuff. They were all about, both of them are about.
Well, like I said,
together.
Well, like I said, like the swastika is now we like as you know after World War II, we really see it in a darker light, but it is a symbol for Buddhism. Yeah. It is a symbol of like redemption in Buddhism. So
maybe they were thinking that when they wrote it.
So maybe,
you know,
who am I to say? Maybe I'm taking a darker turn on something that wasn't supposed to be.
Supposed to be more positive. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've never seen David Bowie in concert, but we've seen Iggy Pop. He was fantastic. All right, let's get started. Cass?
Today I am going to tell you guys about the mysterious death of Rebecca Zhao, as well as Max Shacknai.
Don't know either one of those people.
All right. So this one, it might be, I don't know if a lot of people know their names. It might become clear because it was kind of a bigger news story in 2011. And it's a very strange story to begin with. So it's mostly going to be about Rebecca, but Max's death is very important to the story. But Rebecca was born on March 15th in 1979 in Phalam, Chin State in northwestern Burma, now known as Myanmar. She lived, after she moved out of the house, she lived in both Nepal and Germany before she, with her family, moved to the U.S. in around 2001. She has 3 sisters, a Mary, a Snowman, and a Zena. In 2002, she married a nursing student from Scottsdale, Arizona. They didn't get a divorce until 2011, but it seems like they were separated for a lot longer than that because she met her boyfriend, Jonah Shacknai, in 2008. And they started dating. He was the CEO of a company called Medixus Pharmaceuticals. And his position made him $6.4 million in 2010. So he's a very wealthy man. He had 2 previous marriages. The first to a Kimberly James, and they had 2 children in that marriage. And then a second to a Dina Romano, who they had their son, Aaron Max Shacknai. He was born on June 7th in 2005. And so it seemed that Rebecca and Jonah had a fairly good relationship from 2008 until 2011. There's one instance of her getting arrested for shoplifting, where she pleaded guilty, and that was about it. And again, she was married to somebody else, And they got a divorce in 2011. I don't know if that was amicable or what, but she was dating Jonah in 2008. And then on June 11th, 2011, Rebecca and Jonah were with Max at their Coronado, California home called the Speckle Mansion. And this was actually what they considered to be their, summer estate. And it was like a mansion. Like it had basically guest houses. It had like a courtyard in the middle of this, like basically like it was almost like a O-shaped house where there's a courtyard basically in the middle where you can like go out, and there's like terraces and like balconies from each of the bedrooms looking down into this courtyard. Max was 6 at the time, and Rebecca's sister, I think she was like 13 years old, teenage sister Zena was visiting at the time. And nobody knows really what happened, but in a moment where Rebecca and Zena were not watching Max, he must have been playing by the stairs, and he fell over a second-story banister. And the fall caused injuries to both his facial bones and his spinal cord, and it affected his breathing and his heart rate. Rebecca found him unresponsive moments later and called 911 with her sister Zena. On the call, she's very distraught and crying, and she can't really get a lot of information out because she like thinks he's dead. She is telling the paramedics he's dead, he's not breathing. And her sister has to take over the call for her to instruct the paramedic or the dispatcher where they are and what's going on. He is unresponsive when paramedics show up, and they work on him, and basically I think they get him breathing again, as far as I can tell, or get a breathing apparatus on him, and he is rushed to Rady Children's Hospital in San Diego. Jonah, his father, as well as Max's mother Dina, rushed to the hospital to be with their son. And basically Rebecca is so distraught about the accident that she sends her sister home. She takes her to the airport the next day on July 12th and sends her sister home because she's like, I need to be with Jonah. I need to be, we need to focus on Max and his injuries. And I don't know if it's while she's taking Zena to the airport or if it's like she drops Zena off at the airport at the beginning of the day, and then later in the day, she goes back to the airport. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if she was already there or she just waited, but she ends up picking up Jonah's brother Adam, who was flying in to be with the family, and he is a tugboat captain from Memphis, Tennessee. And after she picks Adam up, the two go to meet Jonah for dinner with a friend. There's not much said about what happened at the dinner or like what the atmosphere was like at the dinner, but Jonah ends up going back to stay near the hospital at a hotel. I think it's like a Ronald McDonald family hotel or something like that, they said. And Rebecca ends up going back to the house with Adam. It's about a 20-minute drive from the hospital to the house. So she goes back to the hotel, to the Spreckles mansion with Adam. And there seems to be multiple texts from Rebecca's phone to different people. Her sister Mary asking if Zena got home safe, talking about how guilty and how much pain she feels about Max's incident, but how she needs to be strong for Jonah. And she basically has texted multiple people that plans for what she needs to do the next couple days to help out.
Okay.
But
Can you stop right there?
Yeah.
Look, Max is her son.
No, her boyfriend.
It's her boyfriend's Jonah's son.
Okay, and
But
she was like in charge when the he fell
Yes.
off.
Yes, she was supposed to be watching. I don't know where Jonah was at this point. Like maybe he was at work. I don't know. But she was. But I mean, this is the thing is like she was supposed to be watching him, but he's also a 6-year-old boy. It's not like she's gonna be like eyes
Right.
on him at all times. And it sounds like she said that she was in the bathroom at the time of his fall. But even so, like again, he's 6 years old. It's not like you would have eyes on him at
And he
all
climbed
times.
over the balcony.
Well, they don't know. They don't know what happened with the accident. I think it ends up being ruled as an accident. Like he was. I think there's in some stories he was like riding a scooter, like probably like one of those like razor scooters, and he either hits. Well, he either like hit something and basically flew over the railing, or nobody really knows what happened to Max. There's no explanation to why he fell over the second floor banister.
Well, does her sister know? I mean, was she playing with?
No, neither of them. I know neither of them apparently had. But again, like neither of them had eyes on them as far as the story goes. Like as far as what they tell other people, they did not see him. But they must have either heard him fall or like were calling after him shortly after, because it sounds like they were almost immediately responsive to him falling off. But there's I don't know what happened, but I do believe it's an accident because they had a very good relationship. In all the interviews that I've seen, it seems like she was very loving towards him. She was very much a good, stepmom, step-girlfriend, stuff like that. Like it doesn't seem to be any ill will towards Max, or it doesn't seem like she did anything on purpose. But there might have been people who thought so, because the next morning on July 13th, 2 days after Max's accident, Adam calls 911 at 6:48 a.m. to report that he has found Rebecca's nude body bound by her wrists and ankles, with her hands behind her back, hanging from the second-story balcony. He calls 911, and he is. This is the problem. Adam is Jonah's brother. Adam is Jonah's brother who has just flown in the day before. But again, and this is kind of the important part of this phone call, this 911 call, because this is what people really don't like about him, is that this is somebody who has dated his brother for, close to 4 years. This is somebody I'm sure he's met before. He calls 911 and basically says, so I got a girl here, she hung herself. You got to send someone out. And a lot of people don't really like that tone that he uses. It clearly puts distance between any relationship between him and this girl, which again, it's not somebody he knows personally. Like, it's not his girlfriend, but it's still somebody I'm sure he knows fairly well.
And maybe he come in for a reason to kill her.
Well, and so while he's on the phone call, he gets more and more distraught. He can't tell them where the house is at. He can't give them an address, and it takes him like forever to get an address. But while he's on the call, he says, "I'm going to cut down her body right now," and proceeds to cut her butt down, which I think he kind of makes it seem like he thinks maybe there's a chance he can save her and she's alive, because he keeps yelling, "Are you dead? Are you dead?" But a lot of people have said that she didn't look alive. Like it would, like there's pictures from the crime scene, and it there's just no way. She also, I forgot to say, had some sort of gag. In some stories I saw that it was just a gag. Other stories I saw that it was a sweatshirt basically wrapped around her head and mouth and like stuffed into her mouth, but like tied behind her head as a gag. Which again, his tone in the phone call makes it seem like it's a suicide, but if you saw somebody with their hands and feet bound, a gag in their mouth, your immediate responses wouldn't be she hung herself, because he specifically says she hung herself. And it seems kind of odd that you'd see that and be like, oh, that was definitely a self-induced kind of thing.
Right.
But to this day, her death is considered a suicide. And that's where things get weird. Because the balcony she was hanging from was not the master bedroom. It was just a random bedroom in the house. And on the door leading into the bedroom, written in black paint, was the message, "She saved him. Can you save her?"
What?
Yeah. Which a lot of people have found this very odd messaging to begin with, because if it's talking about Max, she didn't really save him. He did fall. And can you save
but
her would suggest that...
Did he live? Did Max live?
No, but he didn't die until the 16th. So he is still alive at this point. He is on life support, but he does end up succumbing to his injuries. So it's just a weird message all around, because there's just no chance of actually saving her. She's been hung, from a banister. And we don't know how long she was there. She has a few autopsies done. The first autopsy revealed 4 separate head traumas, which medical examiner Jonathan Lucas states that he believed that maybe she had struck her head on the way down. Many people find a lot of problems with this theory because, kind of like in the staircase, you have to hit your head with a significant amount of force to cause brain trauma. And so she would have to have swung very hard 4 separate times into the banister or into the wall as she swung, which people have said is very highly unlikely that you would maybe get 1 or 2 really good swings where it would cause significant damage, but 4 is a lot for somebody who purposefully hung themselves.
And how could they hang themselves if they had 4 head damages? So he killed them.
Well, but the thing is, they're saying that the head traumas are from her basically swinging after she hung herself.
So her hands and feet are tied up. So how would she?
Which a lot of people have found problems with, but they did recreate it, and they did find that you cut, like the way she was tied, they did find that you could, hang yourself. And they said that it is kind of common for people who hang themselves to either tie their hands up so that there's just no chance of saving yourself.
For them to,
just to make sure that they don't, in a panic, save themselves. So this autopsy is done. Obviously, her family is very upset by this autopsy. So they request a second autopsy to be conducted, which is done by a pathologist named Dr. Cyril Wetch, I think is how he's pronounced. But this one actually did find that the fractures upon Rebecca's neck looked to be more like they were caused by manual strangulation than by hanging, because it didn't seem to be a sharp fracture, like obviously like a tug of a rope. It seemed to be a deep pressure.
His brother killed her.
I will not disagree with you. I do believe that he had something to do with her death.
I would bet her boyfriend or fiance killed her, and her brother is covering up for him.
There's many theories. So this second autopsy also found that Rebecca, at the time of her death, was on her period, and it was at a heavy point of the period, which did account for some blood splatter, or not blood splatter, but blood droplets that were evident in the bedroom, which she had been hung from, as well as the bathroom of that bedroom. And she was sexually assaulted. And there was a knife there. I think there was 2 knives found in the room that she hung herself, or that she was hung in. And one of them on the handle did have her blood present, and she had no stab wounds, so the blood was found to be maybe from her vagina. So she had been sexually assaulted with the handle of a knife. And again, her death is still ruled a suicide after all of this. There's, to this day, it's still ruled as a suicide.
And they didn't get any semen from her.
No. So this is, again, I just don't understand. Well, again, remember that Jonah is a very wealthy man, so it doesn't not make sense that they didn't find anything. But no other DNA evidence was found at the scene of Rebecca's death. Not even the rope and the knife that Adam used to possibly cut her down. So his evidence, his DNA wasn't even found on the knife he said he used to cut her down.
Wait, I want to make sure I got all this straight.
Okay.
So the police didn't come and she was hanging because he had already cut her down.
He had already cut her down by time paramedics arrived, and she was already dead at the time, and so police came. And this is kind of, this might be incorrect, but I know I heard it somewhere, that her body was just left in the courtyard. And because police were called to this house and it was a very rich neighborhood, news helicopters were told to go basically to get pictures of the house. And they actually captured pictures of her, that dead nude body on the ground, and it was cast live on television.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Again,
Okay.
I don't know if that was 100% true, but I know I heard it somewhere. It could have been another case.
She was sexually assaulted while she's on her period
Mm-hmm.
with a knife,
Mm-hmm.
and then hung with her feet and hands.
Mhm.
How did they come up with this was a suicide?
That's the question.
That's the question. And unfortunately, it was perpetuated by Jonah himself, because he would later go on to tell people that when asked, do you believe she maybe hung herself? He said, well, she is Asian and they do have a cultural honor killing code. So he basically told people that he believed she did it out of guilt, and that he believed she committed suicide.
Yeah,
Because
that's
she felt guilty.
Had she been hung
But
there.
it's not, because it's like, it's not, because just because she's Asian doesn't mean that she subscribes to a culture that is like super old.
They came and she was hanging there.
Yes, maybe if she,
her hands are tied up, her feet are tied
she's
up,
naked
and she's naked on her period,
and a gag is in her mouth.
in a gag in
A
her mouth.
sweatshirt.
Yeah, that doesn't even make sense.
Again, he's rich, so maybe it does make sense to some people. Even worse, a computer is found at the home, and on it has pornography, but it doesn't have just any kind of pornography. It has Asian women bondage pornography on it, and it was watched the night of her death. And
Don't tell me.
And the brother-in-law had to have watched it because the dad was at the hospital with.
Dad was at the hospital. He wasn't at the hospital. He was at like the hospital hotel. And I don't know if there's any security footage that he is present at the hotel or at the hospital, but there is video evidence of Dina, Max's mom, being at his bedside the whole time, but it is later figured out that her and Rebecca have a very tumultuous relationship, and Dina has a twin sister named Nina who looks exactly like her. So video footage of identical. So a video footage of somebody sitting at her son's bedtime doesn't really mean much. And somebody did say that they were passing the house that night and saw someone who looked like Dina heading up to the house. So somebody that looked like Dina was caught walking up to the house the night of Rebecca's death, and she had a very tumultuous relationship with Dina. And obviously, Dina and Jonah have a feeling or thought that Rebecca had something to do with Max's accident. But let's get back to Adam, because that's who I believe was responsible for this. Because one of the knots that tied Rebecca's hands behind her back was so complex that most people who were trying to recreate a person tying themselves up like this couldn't get the knot in the right position from behind their back. And when it was taken into testing, or like when it was taken to basically see what the knot is, it was a nautical knot that most sailors use. And if you didn't remember, Adam is a tugboat captain.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
I told you it was Adam who did it, because he flew in from Tennessee. Somebody called him to come in and stage a death.
Yep. Well, and I think
So
it was
brother.
I think it was Dina and Adam. I think they.
Yeah, let's say those two together.
But I also don't think Jonah is innocent in this either. I think because he does not seem upset by her death. He does not seem to question why she died this way. He seems very.
I can see that in a way too. My son is murdered.
But the thing is, there's no evidence.
Well, my girlfriend died too, but trust me, my son.
Well, yes, but he doesn't seem to show any empathy towards Rebecca or her family, who is very distraught about her death. He seems to blow them off quite often when they ask for him to give some assistance. So I think he knows that his brother did it. I think he knows that Dina and his brother did it. Again, this is for entertainment purposes, because her death is still ruled a suicide for some reason. There was also there's just tons of evidence to prove that this was not a self-inflicted suicide. There was residue found on her legs that they linked to being tape. That she was obviously tied up to. There was a chair that had the same residue on it, basically. And also on the 911 call that Adam called in, he claims he was there alone, but in a audio mixed, or not an audio mix, but basically they put this phone call into an audio mixer and turned up the volume really loud and basically made it a little bit clearer. You can hear him say something to somebody else. It's clear that he's not talking to the dispatcher. He says, like, hold her still or something like that, which is clearly not. He's clearly talking to somebody else. There's clearly somebody there. And I think a lot of people say he gets more and more distraught throughout the call, because I think he realizes, he's telling them, oh, he's telling the dispatcher, I don't know the address, just come to the place that you came for the little boy. This is where that little boy had an accident. And it's clear that he's oh, I've got to be more emotional about this. And he cuts down Rebecca, and he says that he has to use a table to basically get up to a height where he can cut the rope. But the table that he shows the cops when they show up is missing a leg. It only has 3 legs. And they said that the length of the rope and where the rope was cut on her, she would have only been maybe 3 feet off the ground. So there would have been no need for the table anyway. So. Doesn't look good for Adam, but he still gets away with it. The only thing is that in a civil court in 2018, a jury panel did find him guilty of a wrongful death suit. So basically, the Zhao family took him to civil court and sued him for wrongful death, and a jury did find that he was guilty, but he's never been sentenced. He never went to jail. And originally, in the 2018 verdict, the family of Rebecca was awarded $5 million. Adam would later go on to appeal it in 2019, and he would reach a settlement with the family for only $600,000.
Wow.
And that is the mysterious death of Rebecca and Max.
Another thing I'm not understanding, because if I wanted to kill her, but I wanted to look like a suicide, why did he tie her hands and feet up? Why wouldn't he just put the rope around her neck and shove her off the thing? And, I'm assuming he could help her.
Right.
What's that?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I don't know. I really don't know. It's such a weird thing of like, why would you go to this length to kill somebody and then, not make sure it didn't look like a murder?
Right.
You could
not show up anywhere.
Right. But
I mean, he cut everything down.
People think he was wearing gloves, so they believe it was like a.
Why would you wear gloves? Why would you have gloves on?
Okay. Well,
in California.
No, it could just be latex gloves. Yeah, because like police wear latex gloves when they go to a crime scene so they don't contaminate the scene. So that could be something too.
He was in the home.
I'm going to try to save their life. I'm not going to.
Well, let me put my gloves on
first.
Well, and there are at the balcony where she was hanging from, there are footsteps that they only belong to her. It is clear that it's only her footsteps, only her foot jumps. But the railing of the balcony there's like a layer of dust on it that has not been disturbed. So she would have had to basically like jump over it, which is highly unlikely when you have your hands and feet tied. And the only other like footprint they found out there ended up being a cop who had stepped out there and left a boot print. So there is clearly clean.
The footprint that it was just hers was her shoes, or was she barefoot?
No, she was completely naked, which again, this is a girl who's committed suicide because if what they say is true, she's doing it for honor because she feels so guilty about Max. You wouldn't do that naked. As a woman, you wouldn't do that in general. And another thing, he was
still alive, so why would she try killing herself?
Yeah, and at the time, he was still alive. So it just doesn't, there's just, yes, it could happen that she felt guilty about his accident. I do believe that, and you can't say like, oh, she wouldn't have all this stuff. But it just, the other thing was that this is something that most of the male, like forensic evidence collectors, didn't really even think about. But so the gag that was tied around her mouth, and I think even the rope around her neck, something that a female lawyer noticed in the pictures. And Jessie, you may understand this. I knew it like almost immediately when I heard it. Her hair was still tucked under the rope.
Oh,
like it basically like she put her rope, the rope, and her hair was like tucked under it so that it like she didn't pull her hair out.
No.
And the person who's going over it was like, I don't know a single woman that would not pull their hair out from under the rope.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. That would be like my first thing. I don't like my hair inside things.
Yeah. Right. Like, and even if it's like, oh, well, she's committing suicide, I don't think she cares. But like,
no, but
you would.
Still.
Like, you would.
Right.
Like, it is. Like, it's something that you would, it wouldn't even be like a conscious thing. Like, you would just automatically, like, I assume like this restaurant, I automatically like push my hair
out. If she did hang herself, my thing too is if her hair is inside the rope, there should be, if there's enough force to like break your neck, there should be enough force to break your hair in places where the
Well, and that
hair
was
should
another
be.
thing, is that was another thing that a lot of people found suspicious, was that, so basically the rope that she had tied to her neck was tied over the banister and onto the leg of a bed in the bedroom. But the bed was shown to have only moved like a very small amount. And if she had thrown herself over the balcony,
Jumped over the balcony.
There would have been enough force to move the bed significant, probably like a couple feet.
Right.
It would have pulled the bed all the way to the railing.
It would have. She's a very small, petite woman, so it wouldn't have been serious. But there would have been enough force to move it at least a couple feet.
Mm-hmm.
And it only moved to I think they said not even an inch.
Yeah, that's not right. Well, he had the money to get an attorney that could take care of it.
And a lot of the articles do say that he paid quite a bit of money for lawyers to basically put out cease and desist to anybody who in the family who was trying to get anything done about this case.
Wow.
So.
That's baloney. I think it should be reopened and somebody should, but look he's gotten away with it this long, and
yeah.
He'll be old. He'll be an old, fragile old man before they finally put
But the
him
thing
in
is that they found all the evidence. That it's not like a case where it's oh, we haven't found any DNA, we haven't done all this. They found significant amount of evidence to show that this was clearly not a suicide. This was clearly somebody, this is clearly somebody. This is a homicide.
And he got and that brother-in-law or the brother,
and it
said
wasn't
that
even,
he was the only one in the house.
He was the only one in the house.
So it's him.
Yeah, and there's a lot of other stuff dealing with I think so. The paint from the message on the door to the bedroom that said, she saved him, all that was found to be on Rebecca's nipples as well, and it looked like somebody had pinched her nipples with the paint on their hand.
Oh, I thought that you were gonna say they were made it look like she wrote it with her nipples.
No.
Okay. What did his attorneys have to explain about that writing on the door?
So that's the thing, is that it's not even he doesn't have to explain, because they've never even charged him with this. There wasn't even a trial to it's just always been a suicide, and they basically just never saw him as a suspect. And he just said said he was in his room all night. He did admit to watching the porn. He said, was in the guest house. I watched porn that night. And then I went to bed and I found her in the morning. That's all he says about the night.
And they didn't go through the house and find rubber latex gloves or something that had black paint on it that he painted the door with.
Well, who knows? They made it up.
Probably did.
Interesting.
That's a really strange too, because exactly who's that message to?
Right. That's people say, or I think because people who believe this was a suicide said that is basically her suicide note of clearly it's about Max. But again, it's clearly from a third person. It's not a first person perspective of I didn't save Max. I don't think I can save myself.
And if you're going to write a note and you're going to commit suicide, you're going to say, "I'm so sorry. Please forgive."
Right. That's what a lot of people said. That this was
so people will think it was from her.
I think that I think Adam and possibly Dina and Jonah committed this crime. And I think they were trying to make it look like a murder without making it look like themselves. I think they were trying to make it look like somebody broke in.
And do you think that
her.
Rebecca knew that they were planning something because she hurried up and sent her sister home?
Maybe. Maybe. I don't
Why
know.
would she send her
Um,
sister home immediately after an incident like that?
Well, I think it was just like an upsetting thing. And like I said, her sister was only 13 at the time. So I think it was just like an upsetting thing.
Oh,
And she was
yeah.
like, well, you
I
got to
can
go
see that
home.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want you to be around all this. What was going
Right.
to
This is
happening here?
right. What's going to happen in here. Um, yeah, I think, I don't know. I don't know if
And has
Rebecca knew
anybody
what was going
questioned
to
the
happen.
13-year-old sister? You know, what happened in the house?
I don't know, but again, Max's death was ruled an accident. They ruled it as he tripped and fell over the banister. And I think again that was just something that they closed. I think I think even with Jonah and Dina, I think if they believed that Rebecca had something to do with it or Zena had something to do with it, I think they would have. They don't want it reopened because if it is found that Rebecca had anything to do with it, her death would be then reopened, kind of thing.
Right.
So I think they closed both of them just to hide it, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a crazy story.
Yeah. It's sad and crazy.
Yeah.
And it's not the first, nor do I believe it'll be the last time a case like this will happen. We have seen through history that people will get away with murder. And it's just how it works. If you have enough money, you can pay off the right people.
Yep. And they paid off the right people because all the people that investigated should have found lots more evidence. And they probably did, but all of a sudden it disappeared.
It didn't disappear, though. That's the thing, is that it didn't disappear. We know what the evidence is. And we can
Yeah, it wasn't
clearly
like they were
see.
hiding any kind of evidence.
Yeah, it's like we can clearly see A to B, but they're just not making that connection.
Hid all of,
No,
the
Cassie,
evidence that could have.
we think that the three of them got together and planned to make it look like a murder, but then
Like
for whatever
broken.
reason changed their mind and said, "Hey, we better make it look like suicide."
No, I think they thought they could make it look like a homicide. I don't think they were ever going to try for it to be a suicide. I think they were trying to make it look like someone broke in and murdered her.
I don't understand why.
I don't think that they expected people to look at Adam. I think they were expecting it to be like, oh, someone broke in and was like just raped and assaulted this woman and then killed her, and Adam was in the back and he didn't hear anything. But I think the phone call, I think the 911 call was what made a lot of people go like, something's not right. He clearly doesn't seem upset that he's just found somebody hanging from a banister.
Well, his brother's girlfriend.
Right, his brother's girlfriend hanging from a banister. And you can hear the phone call is online. You can hear the phone call, and I've listened to it before. It's not, it doesn't seem like he's very upset. And like I said, it seems like he gets more and more upset throughout the call as he realizes that the dispatcher's like asking him like, well, who is it? Like, you knew her? Like, it's your brother's girlfriend? How did you find her? Where are you at? And like, there's just like clearly she's asking questions where he's like, oh, I should have answered this better.
Has anybody interviewed the ex-wife, the mother of Max, since then? And did she think that this girl had something to do with his death? Or I mean,
I don't know.
She,
There's no. I didn't find
either.
anything. No, I didn't find any articles about like her blaming Rebecca for Max's accident.
And the twin sister, did they ask where she was at the time of the death? And
I don't know if they asked where she was at the time of death, but they did find on Rebecca's phone that Nina, Dina's twin sister, had texted Rebecca that like, what happened to Max? I'm coming over. We need to discuss this. And then there was also a voicemail that Rebecca had checked that night and listened to. It was shown as like opened, but that got deleted. So nobody knows who that was from or what it said.
So that's
So we-
evidence right there.
Oh yeah, we have evidence that Nina said she was going to go to the house that night. We have somebody who says they saw someone who looked like Dina walking towards the house. And we have Adam on the 911 dispatch talking to somebody other than the dispatcher, saying, "Hold her still," when he said he was alone at the house.
And so maybe she wasn't dead yet.
Maybe. But also, I think even if it wasn't, like, even if they had found her dead, even if they had found her hanging, even if there was somebody in the house, maybe hold her still while he cut her down. But then, like, why say you're alone in the house?
Right.
Maybe he has a split personality.
I think there was also, I don't know how true this is, but I think when he was questioned by detectives, there was like some interview where he like was asked like, "Oh, what was Rebecca like? What was her attitude? What was her mood when you guys got home from dinner? What happened?" And he's like, "Well, she just went straight up to her room." And they were like, "Well, did you go with her?" And he's like, "No, I thought she'd asked me to come join her." And they're like, "Well, why would she ask you to come join her?" He's like, "I don't know, maybe like sex or something."
He
So
said
it's like,
that.
why would you expect sex from
Your
like,
brother's
your boyfriend's
girlfriend.
girlfriend who's grieving
Who's
the
who-
like act?
This terrible accident just happened with
Yeah,
sex.
right. And then he goes and watches
And then he goes to watch this
Asian bondage
porn.
porn. So
That's pretty bad.
not a smart guy in general.
No.
Typically not.
No.
Well, even it's odd that they would go, he'd pick her up at the airport and they'd go have dinner.
Right.
That's what a lot of people
It's
said.
like,
People said that like that was
well,
weird
this
that
is
Jonah
not
would go
us.
have dinner. Yeah, like why would they go have
And did
dinner?
they check that out? Did they check surveillances where they went, where he said that they went to dinner?
Yeah, it
that
seems like
they
they went
were
to dinner
there?
because they went to dinner with a friend. So it was like 4 people. It was Dina, or I'm sorry, it was Rebecca, Adam, Jonah, and then a friend of Jonah. And the friend
That makes it
confirmed that
even
they were all
weirder.
I know.
Yeah,
That
so
makes it
maybe
even
it wasn't,
weirder.
maybe it was that other guy that was he met him at the house after they did it.
Oh, maybe I never thought about that. It could have been.
Because if it was two of Jonah's friends, he staged that death.
Another thing I did
Mm-hmm.
want to say about his Jonah saying that this was maybe an honor suicide, all that stuff. Her family, though she is Asian, she comes from Burma, are Protestant, so they don't believe in suicide, and that they have said that many times. And all of Rebecca's sisters said that she would have never done that. She didn't believe in that kind of thing. She was
And she was a
Catholic
nurse.
Protestant. No,
Yeah, and she was a nurse. I thought you said Rebecca was a nurse.
did I?
Yeah,
No,
'cause
she married a nursing student. She had married
Oh.
a nursing student in 2000, which he was actually, so her husband, her ex-husband, was firmly against that she committed suicide. He said she would have never done that. She was not that kind of person. And he has been with the family the whole time saying that this is not a suicide.
Mm.
And it doesn't seem like they ended their relationship very badly, but again, they must have been separated for a very long time before they got the divorce.
Hmm. Wow.
I can't
Sad.
remember what she did. I can't remember what it said she did. I don't think she was I don't think she was working at the time of her death. I
So
think
she was
may
just
have.
living on Jonah's income.
I think so.
Well, that's the way
Nothing
these
wrong
well
with that, but
do. These very wealthy men, they don't want a woman who's got a career. They want somebody that their
No.
career is taking care of them. So, but
Yeah, just ask, don't worry,
That's
darling.
another world there. But if my son died
Mhm.
6 years
Well, he didn't
old,
die yet.
when
He was in
He was
critical
just in the
condition. Like
hospital.
he never regained consciousness though.
and
Like
they probably knew, he's
yeah,
got everything.
they
Yeah. So at that point,
Well, then why would you go out to dinner with your brother and a friend and Rebecca?
right, because it's not like when
I'd
an
be
older
sitting at
person is in the hospital
mother
and they're sick.
sitting
Like
at the
you go,
hospital.
you go like, oh, there's nothing we can really do. She's awake and conscious and all that stuff.
why would they be at the hospital with the boy?
Maybe he was in surgery at the time. Like maybe he was in
No,
surgery.
why wouldn't you be there at the hospital? And I've got to admit that I would
Well,
be
I
my
can see it.
girl that was supposed to be taking care of my son in this accident. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe it wasn't. I would be like, I think I'd be pissed. Like, what were you doing? Why weren't you there? What,
I think it's from the interview
I
that the
wouldn't say
friend
let's go
did.
have dinner with some friends.
Well, I think from what I remember of the friend who went to dinner with them, he did say there was clearly a rift between Rebecca and Jonah throughout the whole dinner. He clearly, like, obviously Jonah went back to stay stay near the hotel. And it was clear that he didn't want Rebecca to stay there with him.
All right, that makes sense.
But I can see too where they went out to dinner if Max was having surgery, because if a surgery is
I'm
like
sure they
6
haven't
hours
eaten all
long,
day. Yeah.
right? You can't, like, you could stay at the hospital, but there's not anything you can do except sitting in a waiting room,
I know.
going
Right.
crazy.
It's
So
a 6-year-old
I mean,
boy. I wouldn't be leaving inside.
you can't go
You're
into
not by
this,
his side. Yeah,
right?
you're not
In
by
the
his
surgery,
side.
you can't be there. It doesn't matter
You'd be
how
sitting
old
out in
they
the
are.
hallway.
Yeah, you'd be sitting in a waiting room. So like you
I'm
can't
sure
go
maybe
into
even
the
like the
surgery.
friend, yeah, maybe the friend even like was like, all right, you're coming to dinner, like Jonah, like let's go,
Right.
like we're gonna go have dinner.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, because when people have surgeries, I don't
That's usually when
besides
you go get something to
besides
eat.
us right, but besides a C-section, I don't think that anybody is allowed to be in the general public, or your family members are allowed to be
I
in.
know, but still, I'm going to be right there should something happen. I'm
Yeah,
going to
but
be right there.
right, but the thing though too is like with the surgery,
The restaurant could have been right there. The restaurant
Right.
could have been like across
and
the
a
street.
lot of
We
times
don't know.
too, it's like you're getting text messages or whatever from the hospital.
Mhm.
From certain, you're like, this is what we're doing. This is what, like I've sat through several of Matt's surgeries that, like you get like updates on like, hey, we opened up this. We are inside him now. We're doing this. You get text messages throughout the whole thing. So
Oh, okay. So I did just see this. This wasn't even until July 26th, so this was long after Rebecca was dead. But and again, his death was ruled as an accident later on. But on July 26th, a doctor, a trauma doctor who had examined him prior to his death in autopsy, stated that he did not believe the injuries were consistent with a fall, and that he suggested that Max may have been suffocated prior to his fall. So a trauma doctor did say this, but it was on. No, I'm sorry. His death was ruled as an accident on July 26th. So I don't know when the trauma doctor said that it looked like he had suffocated before the fall. But that could have been a reasoning behind this. But again, this didn't come out until July 26th. So this would have been far after Rebecca died.
Crazy.
So is that a movie or or is it
As I know of.
just and it happened
This is
in
real
California?
So this happened in California. this happened in California, but it doesn't seem. I think they are. This is just their summer estate. This mansion is a summer estate to them. And I think Jonah, his home is in Arizona, because that's where his business is located.
And so why did they have Max? Or did his ex-wife live in California?
I think it said she actually lived fairly close to the Spreckles mansion.
Oh.
But it was probably just like a court-appointed visit. They probably had custody of him for the week or weekend. Or maybe the summer. I don't know.
Crazy.
Crazy. All righty. Anything else you want to add to it? Any thoughts?
I don't think anyone other than the police think that this was suicide.
Right.
I haven't read a single article that believes that this was a suicide or suicide.
It doesn't sound like a suicide. I don't agree. I agree. It was not a suicide. I think it was Jonah's brother who murdered her, and Jonah and somebody, either the twin sister.
They set it up to look like she was murdered. The police said it was a suicide. They were like, okay, yeah,
okay, sure.
Yeah, right, yeah. Well, again, I think I said this before with how she was gagged with her hair, but nobody, every single woman that has been involved in this case, prosecutors, lawyers, anything like that, they're like this immediately, all the red flags that this was not a woman who committed suicide. Like, this is not how a woman would commit suicide. The only people who have said that this is how she committed suicide are like male detectives and male forensics officers. So it's very clearly like misogynistic views of what a woman would do after a child dies on her watch.
Right.
No. Nope, that's not true.
Right. There's just, these are all red flags that a woman would never commit suicide like this. Like, yes, a woman could commit suicide out of grief, but
typically women are less violent.
And bring such like a sexual motive, being naked, being bound by your hands, the knife with her period blood on it on the handle, there's just no way a woman would do this out of grief. This is just not a grief kind of suicide, if it was suicide.
Yeah. It wasn't suicide. And, she would have been grieving a lot longer than 5 hours after the kid was in, she wouldn't have committed suicide that shortly after because he was still alive. She would have been grieving after he passed and then maybe considered suicide, but there was no way she would have committed suicide
quickly after.
Shortly after.
2 days after the accident.
Right. No, that's just not. You'd be distraught and worried to death, but no, that's just.
Well, especially if it was, she murdered Max to get rid of him, which doesn't seem to be any evidence. What's the point of doing that and then killing yourself?
Right. I don't believe that she did.
No, I don't know what happened to Max, and that is the really unfortunate part of this is that, it could have very well been an accident. Kids play all the time, and they play by stairs, and they play by balconies, and they do really terrible things, and it could have been an accident. And for this to lead to Rebecca's murder is insanely tragic.
Yeah. But the doctor that said that Max had been suffocated and died,
prior.
how do they?
prior to.
How did he get that evidence? I don't understand.
I don't know.
Or did
It says
somebody
that
try
his
suffocating him at the
it,
hospital?
all it, no, it says all it says is that the trauma doctor who examined the child prior to his death and the autopsy stated to the police that he did not believe the injuries from the fall were consistent with cardiac arrest or brain swelling that was experienced by him. So that he basically said, the thing is, his injuries did cause, like, it basically, I think he fell face first, basically. So he had facial fractures and his spinal cord was damaged, which caused lack of oxygen and
Right, so it could have
obviously
caused
that's
the
suffocation, brain swelling, cardiac arrest. He's saying that the cardiac arrest and the swelling didn't coincide with a fall, which I don't know. I don't know how you determine that. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know how
Maybe
to
the
determine
kid-
that.
Maybe the kid, I mean, it's a 6-year-old kid, but maybe the kid had a cardiac arrest and, or had a stroke or something, and that's how he ended up falling off the balcony.
I think he just tripped. I think he was going too fast
Mhm.
and hit something or tripped and just kind of flew over the
Could have been
banister. I don't know.
climbing the railing.
Right.
Yeah, he could have been climbing the railing and slipped.
Yeah, I'm sure you don't know this, but
Or
did
maybe
they find
he,
his body like immediately down, or was it like he flew across? Or
Well, from what it sounds like with the spinal injury, I don't know how they found the body, but from the spinal injury and facial fractures, I'm guessing he basically fell like head
Head
first.
down.
Yeah. So he was probably like on his stomach or on his back. And on the call, you can hear Rebecca's call to 911. It's very distressing. She's very clearly upset. She thinks he's dead. And so it clearly the injuries were bad enough where she doesn't even think he's alive at this point.
alrighty, okay, guys. Anything else to add? Anybody?
no, they need to find the murderer.
I think so too. I think
they did.
Yeah.
I wonder what
I think
they did.
everybody knows. I think they know who the murderer is, but they hide
Well,
enough
and
evidence.
that's the thing is that
The
he
evidence
has been
that
found
he
guilty of
convicts
her
somebody.
death. He just hasn't been found as her murderer.
right.
Yeah.
In a civil case.
In a civil case.
Case. So
Yeah.
it's not even something that it's just for money. He doesn't even go to jail for that.
Right. He just has to pay the fine.
Right. That's like OJ. OJ was found guilty of murder in a civil case.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Were the
Cassie
Kardashians
said,
involved in this in any way?
What?
Were the Kardashians involved in this in any way?
It was California, so maybe.
It may be. But this was after Robert Kardashian died.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
he didn't have anything to do with the death. He was
That's
just
right,
a lawyer.
But he was friends with O.J. Simpson. They were good
friends.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and OJ's
Mhm.
Chloe's dad.
Yeah.
Or so the story goes.
That's the theory.
All righty. All right, guys. Let's wrap this up. You guys are all frozen.
Oh, you were froze too.
Oh. Okay.
Because we
All
live
right,
in
guys.
Michigan.
For her.
and I am froze to death.
Mhm.
Well, you need to come off of that patio at some point.
Yeah.
I know. Looks like a nice day. I don't know what you're talking about, Mom.
It looks pretty nice
Yeah.
there, doesn't it?
I wish I was there.
All right, guys.
Me too.
There's snow out
Let's
there.
wrap it up. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this week. Again, share, like, push that like button, and give us a thumbs up, and
Subscribe.
email us at Family School of Thought. And subscribe to our channel, please. All right. Thanks, guys. See you next week.
Bye.
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 Goodbye.